Niarja. Okay, so I'm going. If you guys are veterans that think about the EVE economy a lot, right, then it's possible that I'm going to annoy you for a few minutes because I'm going to go over some basics, right? But I feel like I've noticed when I talk about certain things about the ecosystem in EVE that a lot of people haven't thought about these concepts a lot, especially if they don't think about economics in real life, and so I want to make sure we're all on the same page when we talk about what the Niarja Impact has or will do, because the exact thing that I complained about the TIS report is that we're not talking about results, is because I think in order to talk about results, you actually have to go back to the basics and think, okay, what are the possible outcomes that may happen? And I think based on this, I can make a bold statement there in the end, and we'll see if it holds up with you guys. But we have to start with, why do we have trade-ups at all, right? I mean, you could just have JITA and that'd be it, right? But we can't, because we have local players that want to sell their stuff not only in JITA, but that don't want to go all the way to JITA and sell. So you have to have some kind of local market for people to sell their stuff, and that's miners, that's ratters, that's mission runners, that's, you know, faction warfare PvPers. You know, they don't want to fly all the way across the universe all the time. They want to sell locally because they are not traders, they're not producers, they just want to sell conveniently. The second reason is the buy side or the demand side of things, because you have locally active PvE or PvP players that need ships, that need ammo, that need consumables of other types. They need all sorts of stuff. So you need somebody in there that provides this, and that means traders or producers, because either you can bring stuff there for them to buy, or you can sell it. Now, if it was only for point 1 and 2, then you would have all these little tiny hubs everywhere, and it'd be super inconvenient, right? Because you know, traders would have to supply 20 markets and etc., etc. So you have point 3, and that is that for traders and producers, the logistical effort is reduced by a lot if you have fewer trade hubs. So you're going to have the fewest amount of trade hubs possible while still satisfying point 1 and 2. And that's why you have Dodixie, that's why you have Amarr, that's why you have Heck and Renz and some others, because it's the balance that a sandbox game like EVE finds between the convenience of the shoppers and the logistical side that traders and suppliers and producers face. So that's why we have, you know, the amount of trade hubs. If the universe was bigger, we would have bigger trade hubs, but it's also completely logical that you have something like JITA. Like in any universe like this, you would have something like JITA popping up, because you need a central trading point. Because for everyone that doesn't care where they live, for everyone that's just active in the universe but doesn't need to or care to be in a specific place, something like JITA is the perfect place to live. And I'm talking about people like me that, you know, are mainly trading, that are you know, that are fine sitting in any point in space, and they need something like JITA to exist. And that's why it's totally logical for JITA to exist. It doesn't have to be JITA, but there will be one central point. I'm drinking the half liter, by the way, today. Okay, so that's why we have trade hubs. Now, I gotta go to the next slide. Which typically works, but it doesn't work today. Give me a second. Interesting. Every other day it works. It works with the EIF slides, I'm guessing, right? Let's see. You guys know I have these guys, and they always work. Okay, then give me a second. I'm gonna add it to the other one. Didn't buy a leading permit. Hold on. A sliding permit. Yeah, that's right. So we're gonna go here, and we're gonna go through the normal slides, and then we'll get to them eventually. Okay. Oh yeah, by the way, the TTT makes 2.2 trillion. And that number might be high, Billy, in case you're watching. Mac Ballbacks, dude, thank you for that subscription. And 2 months, hell yeah. PowerPoint. That's right. Thank you for filling that gap. So, why does Inter trade hub? So that's why we have trade hubs, right? But why do we have trade between hubs? And the only reason that we have Hebus, what's up, man? The only reason that we have trade hubs, the trade between the hubs, is because of two reasons. One, there's a difference in supply, so you have higher volumes of a good in one than the other, or you have different goods, so you know, a different product offering in one trade hub or the other. That's one. Or two is price difference. So you have for some reason, because you know demand is higher in one or supply is higher in one, or because buying behavior is different, you will have a price difference in one of the hubs. And whenever that happens, traders and producers will automatically regulate that market. I mean, in that way, EVE's economy is exactly the same as any of the real world economies, in that if there's opportunity created by differences in supply or differences in price, then somebody will jump in there. That will always happen. And it's mostly people like me or like you guys trading, right? Or at least interested in this side of stuff. So we now know why we have trade hubs, and now we know why there's trading between the hubs, right? And we need to know this because now, if we're now talking about the Niarja incident, and let me just give you the quick run through. Mr. Rain, thank you for that tier 1 subscription. Welcome to the stream. So that immediately puts us at the share giveaway. Let me just start that in the end with my nifty little giveaway button. Okay, we'll do a giveaway share, and this is not the one that Fansui is sponsoring. This is the one that I'm sponsoring just because we've reached the goal. That should work. By the way, guys, I removed the confirmation. Yeah, just do exclamation mark raffle. I removed the confirmation message from the raffle so that yeah, Bonsai Linza, I don't think exclamation mark raffle works with an eh. But yeah, so yeah, less spam. So you need to type it correctly to be in there. So when we talk about the Niarja incident, then what I mean is we're having Triglavian invasions going on. I hope you know this, and they invade certain systems, and if the Triglavians are successful, then the system becomes a faux null system. So essentially, you know, Concord disappears, etc., etc., making it very, 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 very risky for traders to pass through it. Now, this happened a few other times, but with Niarja, it's important because it's between Amarr and Jida, the two biggest trade hubs. And without Niarja, if you take it completely out of the equation, then you have something like 46 jumps between the two. And so everyone freaked out. Everyone said, "Oh God, you know, it's the end of the world." And of course, it's not. You know. So it's an inconvenience for sure, but it's normal stuff that happens in any economy, and it's just, you know, it's you can compare it to if you had two cities that are connected by a highway, right? And think think of it as not now, but 100 years ago, where you know the world wasn't as connected as it was today. So take the example of 100 years ago. You have two cities connected by a highway, and in the middle there's a bridge, and the bridge collapses, and now you just can't. The two cities are cut off. What you will have is you'll have a bunch of detours that go around, right? So what happens in that scenario in the real world is those two. Obviously they're gonna trade less, and there's gonna be less exchange, and people won't be able to go through the highway, but you'll have a whole lot of other cities profit from this that are along the highway, or that can also trade with the two cities. So that's kind of the scenario that we have in the Eve universe going on right now. And so the primary effects that you will see are that you will see larger price differences between the two hubs. So the way that prices regulate themselves in an economy is that if you have a price difference, then you trade, and it becomes less, because you just need to look at the price in one hub and compare it to the price in the other hub, and look at what it costs to haul the money from one to the other. And if it's profitable, somebody's going to do that. That's just a market rule, right? So and now you will see larger price differences because the regulation is less efficient. So that's one primary effect. The other one is going to be that imports are going to be more expensive. So anything that you can't get in one place but you can get in the other is going to be more expensive to import, right? It's that's of course. But in Eve right now, that's actually, we don't really have a lot of regional goods. And yes, I know we have some, we have some faction warfare stuff maybe, and ships are in one place are easier to get because you have LP stores and that sort of stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not like we have like crazy materials, a material shortage that happened because of this. It's just not in the game right now. I'm hoping they will add it soon, but it's just not in the game right now. Right. Let me catch up with chat real quick to see if I didn't miss anything. If traders hold Triglavian standing, then they can haul through Niarja. Well, they could, but they could still get ganked much more easily. Yeah, exactly. I had other communication interfered for electronic data transaction system. Yeah. Okay. So they're gonna get ganked, and it's really not an option to take really expensive stuff going through, unless you have firepower support, whatever. There's a ton of scenarios where this could happen, but it's, first of all, it's just interesting, right? It's not a gank if it's not high sec. That's also true. You can just simply get killed. But there's a secondary effect, right? And the secondary effect is that Amarr will become a more independent market, right? Because you have two cities that are now separated. Jeddah is much better suited to still be the big trade hub that it is, because it already has 90% of the trade, and better connections to everywhere else, especially now. And so specifically Amarr will be a much more independent market. So what does that mean? Well, the raw material supply will have to come from the locals. Demand for goods will come from the locals. So if there's people there wanting to buy stuff, then they will buy stuff. If local demand is high enough, producers will produce more locally, driving demand for local supply. So it's all about, are there people there, right? If there's no demand there locally, then you will see raw material prices drop. And miners are going to be either sell their stuff for less or haul it out. But either way, it's going to just, it's going to reduce their profits. And in the end, a lot of them are going to stop or relocate. That's just what happens in that situation. And you know, if there's no if local demand is also not there, then those that don't live there are not going to take their stuff there and sell it there because there's no demand. So from that you will see other trade hubs profit, right? So these are just things that are fairly logical that you would expect to happen in any scenario like this. Let me just catch up on chat. Okay, you guys are just talking about ganking still. The clerics are gonna rip you off. I'd say almost 2/3 of Null would prefer to sell their stuff in Amarr in theory, but until exactly. So we'll get to that. So the essence of this is it all comes down to local demand. So if people so it seems like the most common response to this is, oh my god, Amarr is going to die, right? and some crazy people are saying, oh my god, Jita is going to die, which is not going to happen. And what I'm saying is it all comes down to local demand. And so if we agree on that, if we say, okay, it all comes down to local demand, then let's talk about what drives local demand, right? When you're talking about local demand, it's mission agents that are not affected by the Niarja incident. NPCs, so rats, whatever, anything that has to do with NPCs, not affected. Invasions and incursions are not affected. Faction warfare is indirectly affected because it's possible that people will jump ship and go to a different faction because of the inconvenience, but that would be more like an indirect effect. People still go to Amarr because they just select the faction, so that's not going to change. Corporations that are in Amarr space right now, they will not all relocate, so but some of them might, so they're indirectly affected. The adjacent nullsec systems, as you just said, you know, a lot of nullsec would prefer to sell on Amarr if it was a trade hub, but the actual location of adjacent nullsec is not changing. So there's still a lot of people there that would prefer to trade there. Local resources also not affected. But the big one that we have now is the travel connections to other relevant regions, because a lot of people select the place that they live based on the convenience of travel, right? Like people like me, like I would never live in Amarr. Like why the hell would I live in Amarr? Well, before I may have considered it. Now, and there's no way in hell. Of course, I'm going to live in Jita because that's where the action is. Now, there's a ton of other reasons, namely those on this slide right here, that will make you live there. So, do I think that the Niarja incident? I shouldn't keep saying that word because I keep saying it wrong. I don't think that incident is going to immediately kill Amarr, and that's why the slide that I posted on Reddit that said, you know, there hasn't been an impact on it. I should have said yet, but I said there is no impact. That's why I took that down, because the real answer to this whole thing is it all comes down to local demand. There is some local demand there, a lot actually, and so Amarr will continue to live, but it's going to slowly die because it's not going to slowly die, sorry, it's going to slowly wither away, and it's going to make room for other trade hubs because mainly of that last point and a little bit of the indirectly affected stuff on this slide, because local demand is affected by the Niarja incident, not overwhelmingly so, but slightly, or slightly to significantly. That's my current theory, and that's what I wanted to explain in a little bit more detail. Happy to hear what you have to say. Feel free to also tear this apart, right? Say if you guys think totally differently, and maybe I've never lived in the Amarr region. If you live there, tell me why you would live there. Tell me why you would trade there. Because to me, right, I have quite a few trade alts in Amarr, so I shouldn't say I wouldn't live there. I do live there with trade alts. Because so far it was the second biggest market, and so it was relevant enough to have another trader there to make money, right? But I don't see myself in the long run keeping that up in Amarr, because I'm thinking it will lose its status at second biggest trade hub if Niarja stays null. And so of course it's going to have an impact. It's but right now, as it's still the second biggest, right now I still have characters there. So my own situation is like a microcosm of what I'm arguing here.